Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice. Hi, everybody. It's Sunday, which means it's time for another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. Fruit Loop, how are you?
I am good.
As if I don't know. You've been here all day.
Yeah, I know, right?
We've been so busy, guys. It's just nonstop.
Yeah, working.
Little worker bees.
Yep.
So I'm glad my day has ended better than it started because do you know what I did this morning?
What?
So I wake up, tumble out of bed and stumble to the kitchen.
Okay,
and,
Dolly.
Yeah. Love Dolly.
Yep.
And I started my coffee and I go feed my dogs and come back and didn't even put the coffee cup down.
So it was running and it was running everywhere?
And I hit the 12 ounce because it was early and I was tired. So yeah, that's how my day started, but it's gotten much better.
Sweet.
How about you?
I was wondering why your dog was like running around real hyper.
Yeah, I think they got a few licks
Got
in
a little
before.
lick of coffee in them.
Yeah. Normally it's the cat knocking my coffee thing off. I'm still not used to having a kitty cat. And that cat will look me dead in the eye because he knows he's not supposed to push things off the counter. And he will do it and not break eye contact with me. He's worse than a teenager.
Yeah, dude, he sticks his whole head in my cup.
Yeah.
Like the whole head down and trying to get in the cup.
Oh, the other day I was in the studio here doing some research and I leave to go help my daughter with her class and I come back and take a big gulp of my coffee and look and the cat's got coffee on his bottom fur. So I if I start meowing or something,
yeah,
you know why.
He's sharing coffee with the cat.
That's my kind of cat. If you're new to the case, it's a known fact. I drink coffee from the time I wake up till I go to bed pretty much.
Yeah, it'd probably be easier if you just got an IV drip.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to talk about something real quick.
Okay, so we just want to clarify. We had a couple of you guys reach out about a comment about Lori being a great mom. And we just want to say that is based on family members talking about prior to everything happening that they thought she was a great mom. Obviously, we didn't know her. So it's not our opinion that she was a great mom. We're sharing, like, obviously with everything that's happened and the evidence that's come out and stuff that happened in her divorces and all that. Obviously there's issues and she had issues being a mom. It's not necessarily our opinion. We're just sharing with you that Larry, Kay, other family members talked about her being a great mom.
Right. Because I think if you were to ask us, and a lot of times we really do try to keep big opinions about things off of here, just because we don't want to have to defend our position on our social media or whatever. It's just, it can get nasty when you do that. So we try to keep a lot of our personal opinions off, but we've never said, never thought she was a great mom. It's very obvious her children are dead. So we just want to make sure when we say that, we're just kind of quoting the family. It's not what we feel. I will say right now, I don't think she was a good mother.
Yeah.
At all.
I mean, obviously there were things that she hid from other people that they didn't have no clue about.
Yeah,
so.
And people can hide a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of times that's what our cases are about. People hid the nasty. And then when things happen, everybody's blindsided.
Yep.
So enough about her for now.
Yep.
We're going to jump back into the Pike County Massacre, the Rhoden murders.
Yep.
And we're going to recap here just a bit. Again, I think on our YouTube, we are going to use the diagram of the family. So that way, if you're on YouTube watching, I know sometimes you can't exit out of your YouTube app to look at a picture. We're going to put this as the header, as the main picture. But again, grab you a good family tree of who's who. We have them on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you want to head over to one of those, you'll see I found a really good one that's a lot less confusing. But we're going to right now, again, go through the victims and the accused.
Yep.
So we have one family. Chris Sr. is the dad. Dana Rhoden is the mother. And they have 3 kids. Frankie, who is the oldest, Hannah Rhoden, who is the middle child, and they have little Chris, who is 16 and the youngest. That makes up their family. There were 3 other people that were shot that are not part of that immediate family. Hannah Gilley was Frankie's fiance, and they had a child together. And then you have Gary, who is a brother.
Gary was a cousin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have Kenneth.
See,
we get
confused.
I've been on this thing for 4 days, and I'm eyes are crossing. So I kind of feel like Gary and Kenneth were collateral damage, it seems.
Yeah, like wrong place, wrong time.
Exactly. And then we have our defendants. We have Billy Wagner, who's the dad, Angela Wagner, who's the mother. We have Jake Wagner, who is the son and also the father of Sophia with Hannah Rhoden. And then you have George, who is the other son. That's all your players.
Yep.
We won't talk about Kenneth and Gary as much, just because everything seemed to sort of center around the immediate family of Chris Sr. and the Wagners.
And we do discuss Rita Newcomb, who is Angela Wagner's mom, and Frederica Wagner, who is Billy's mom.
Right. So just a recap, we all know that 8 members of the Rhoden family, who were spread out in 4 different trailers, were murdered overnight. They think sometime between April 21st and 22nd, definitely by 7 in the morning. Nobody was arrested for 2 years. And there were many theories that floated around about what could have happened. And we are going to get to that after we talk about the autopsies.
Yep.
So finally, the Wagner family, they were all arrested at the same time in different areas on November 13th, 2018.
Yeah, it was kind of like I don't want to say sting operation, but they arrest them all at once.
Yeah.
So nobody could flee, I guess, or whatever.
Well, they found Billy, the dad, Billy Wagner, the dad. He was hiding in a horse trailer when he was apprehended. And I think he was in Kentucky. He was not in Ohio. He waived his extradition to go back. So,
gotcha.
All right. So before we get into the investigation and then just kind of our thoughts about it, and then we'll jump down to some other stuff, we're going to do some autopsies. We're going to talk about what they found. And I think it's a little telling. These autopsies tell a little bit of a story to me, even with how little we know from the autopsies. They were super heavily redacted.
Yeah. It was like, there wasn't a lot of information. Sorry. So looking at Chris Sr., which is the dad, he was shot 9 times. His body was decomposed more than the others, and that could mean that he was shot first. He had defensive wounds on his forearm. He actually had a gunshot to his forearm, which that makes you think he was defending himself. Mm-hmm. He had gunshots to his face, torso, extremities. He was found in his back bedroom. They believe he was drugged through the house to the bedroom. The way his head was tilted leads investigators to believe he was shot through the door.
Yeah. And our theory is that we believe that Chris Sr. and Gary may have been awake because everybody else was found in the bed with the exception of little Chris, who was found hours later beside his bed. So it just, and to me, a defensive wound, just that's exactly where you get them when you're throwing your arms up to not get shot.
Yep.
And then he had some bruising on him. So it seems I would almost say there was a panicked moment before they were killed.
That's what it sounds like, because I know Bobby Joe on the 911 call, she says that he was beat up, that they were beat up pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, she thought that they had been bashed in.
Yeah.
And
yep. So then you see Frankie, which is the son. He had 3 gunshot wounds to the head, 2 of which show the gun pressed to his head due to the soot found around on his skull. It's like, I guess, gunpowder residue or something.
Yeah, it's like I thought they called it like stipling, but whatever. It just shows that he put the gun directly against his head.
Yeah, and they can tell that by like the gunshot wound, how close or how far away they were. So
yep.
Then little Chris, he had 4 gunshot wounds to the head found on the floor beside his bed. And if you'll remember, it took a while for them to find him. So
yeah, it was. In fact, when they did the first press conference about this, they only said they had 7 victims. So yeah, and then of course, a few hours later, you find out poor little Chris. You know, he was part of it. He was part of the group that lost their life.
Yep. So then you see we have Hannah Gilley, which was Frankie's fiance. She had 5 shots to the head. Hannah Rhoden had 2 shots to the head. Gary had 3 to the head, 2 to the head, 1 to the face. Dana was shot 5 times on the right side of her head and once under her chin. And then Kenneth had 1 to the right eye.
I'm going to tell you a little theory I just popped in my head, but Hannah Gilley was shot 5 times, and that's one of the higher numbers.
Yeah.
Because you have 2, 3, 4, for 5. But you have to understand Charlie Gilley, who Hannah Rhoden is dating, that's her brother.
Yeah.
And we have seen some exchanges on their social medias where there were some arguments and that kind of thing. But I kind of feel like, did Jake see her as maybe the reason Hannah's dating Charlie Gilley? I don't know. There's a reason there's 5 to her, and Frankie had 3.
Mm-hmm.
And they're laying in the same bed.
Yeah.
Could it be that she woke up when Frankie was shot? Maybe. But it just, sometimes, like if you look at Kenneth, he had $1,000 in dollar bills scattered from the waist down.
Yeah. It was one of them. Was it Kenneth?
I think it was Kenneth.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
It was either him or Gary one.
Yeah. And so that's very personal. That's a message.
Yeah.
That is literally a message.
Yep.
So I just thought with 5 shots to the head, that seemed excessive.
Yeah.
So who knows? I think that they waited until Hannah had her baby before they did any of this because they were not sure if it was Jake's or not.
That's a good thought.
Well, if you think about it, if they know they're gonna murder her when she gets home and settled, they wouldn't want to hurt this, possible child of Jake's.
Yep.
And if she dies, then the girls can be together with Jake.
Yeah.
So I just, I really do think the time of the murders hinged around when she delivered and got home.
Yeah. So Hannah started posting some pics on her social media of Sophia with her new boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And that was like towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
So could this be possibly something that set Jake off? Or Angela off?
Or Angela. I firmly believe she was the mastermind behind all this. I don't know why. I just do. Can I just say I'm glad I'm not in the dating world anymore?
Yeah, for real.
I have to deal with all this drama.
Exactly.
Angela, one thing I learned about her, she served in the Air Force, but only for a year. And we've not been able to find any kind of discharge papers to tell why it was only a year, because usually it's at least 2, right?
Yeah, it depends on what brand. I mean, like what you're doing. Like, could be 4, 2. Yeah. Reserves, I think, might be 2. I don't know.
Yeah. So back to the morning of the murders, when Bobby Joe Manley went to Chris Senior's house and Gary's house, and she found them dead. They were the only ones that were not in their beds. But the one thing she told police was that the window, I think she told police, or was it the police said something? Either way, the bedroom that Chris Sr. obviously was in, there's a picture too. I can tweet this out later. You can see where the window is raised up. And so we were just trying to figure out, is it that maybe he tried to get out the window? Because I feel like if they busted in and Gary was sitting in a chair, apparently, he's got a minute maybe while they're figuring out what they're going to do. Does he try to go out? Because I don't see the killers coming in a window. You're at a big disadvantage.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one way you get shot as the perpetrator.
Yeah.
So we don't know if law enforcement did it because of smell or anything like that, but I kind of would think, I don't think law enforcement would lift a window. I think maybe it was lifted, and it could be a nice night and he had his window open. Who knows? But that did stick out to me.
Yep. So you talked about that Chris Sr. and Gary were awake and surprised by the Wagners. And we talked about the bedroom window. Here's a big question that I have, and we've discussed it. Did Jake hack their cameras?
Yeah.
I mean, we know they hacked their social media.
Yeah, and if they didn't have passwords that were super hard, I mean, it sometimes I guess it could be easy to think of passwords for people you know really well if they don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
a lot of people use very common passwords.
That's true.
I mean, you know, like my family, I'm helping my mom, and I'm like, oh no, we got to change this.
Yeah. No, your family's passwords make me laugh, but when I help them with stuff, I'm like, really? But anyways, so the camera deal for me is kind of a big deal, because like we talked on the other one, you're just not going to know the trajectory of that camera, knowing if you're on it or not. Obviously, if you're, if you can access it and see where to walk, you can avoid it and stay off of that camera. So
the other way to think too is if he knew a password, he could put the app on his phone, and then with my cameras, I can adjust my sensitivity. I can turn my cameras off myself. So if you're in that app and you have that password and you turn that camera off, it shouldn't alert the other phones.
No.
So
it doesn't record.
Right. So I think that's maybe one way that they were able to. It's just a theory.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to find out.
Yeah, because I don't know. A family member did say that there was one security camera in a birdhouse that they did not think the killers thought of. But if he knows the password, he can go turn every one of them off and have plenty of time to do what he's got to do.
Yeah.
But then what you could do is, you know, get a forensics on that and find out what device is that registered to. Oh, it's registered to Jake Wagner. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. So they're looking into all that, I'm sure.
Yep. So you have a theory on who's the mastermind?
I think Angela. That's just my gut. Yeah. I don't know that Jake and Billy and George seem smart enough to do this. And I don't know them. It's just a hunch I have. You know, from the beginning when the Wagners were named as who they've arrested, they very quickly came out and said this revolves around custody.
Yep.
You know, so.
You know what it reminds me of?
What?
It's like the mom on Kindergarten Cop with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
Yeah. So it kind of, that's the vibe I get.
Yeah.
Yep. So Bobby Joe.
Poor Bobby Joe.
Who was the first to find Chris Sr. and Gary. Like, she was put through the ringer for a while.
Yeah, like, and it wasn't a day or two. It was a long time.
Yeah, like, she took lie detector tests and passed them. That had to be grueling for her.
Yeah, well, grueling, and just on top of losing pretty much all of your family to be, you know, accused of possibly doing it. I can't imagine being in Miss Bobby Joe's shoes, but she, you know, you're grieving your entire family, and then you're under suspicion because you showed up first.
Yeah, I mean, you heard her on the 911 call. She was emotional.
Oh yeah, I would have never, like, if I'd have heard that and not know anything, I'd say she's pretty distraught.
Yeah.
But I saw on my forensic files one time where a 911 call was made, and they sounded hysterical, and it could have passed. But then they brought in a voice expert who was like, "No, this is straining the vocal cords to sound like you're freaking out."
No way.
Oh yeah.
They can tell that?
I guess he told it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, so like they brought in somebody who was analyzing a 911 call, and they were like, "No, this, my professional opinion, this is straining. This is not raw emotion."
It's like your mama yelling at you when you was a kid.
It's like
It's straining.
It's like my 9-year-old.
It's straining.
You know how Sarah Rose is. She can whip up some tears. That kid's gonna have an Oscar one day.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, y'all better put money, buy stock in the Oscar. I don't know, some kind of stock, because that kid, she can do it.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
As long as she buys me a little house by the sea,
there you go.
I'm good.
Yep. All right. So the dogs were nowhere to be found when Bobby Joe came to the house first.
Right. And then when I think it's Donald Stone was the one that found Gary Rhoden, and he had to stay there because when the cops came, his dog, which I think it was a pit bull named Brownie, it was wanting to go at the cops, and so he was able to go up and calm the dogs down. And so to him, he knew right then they had to have known who did this.
Yeah.
Those dogs are trained to be guard dogs. They're vicious, and I think across all their properties they had like over 20 dogs. So it would have to be somebody, in their opinion, and we know it was Jake, who knew those dogs.
Yeah.
He might have known what treats they liked, all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Yep. So you found some interesting stuff on Dana. That she was seen by a coworker the night of the murders on the phone upset.
Yeah, so the night of the murders, Dana worked a double shift, which I don't think she had intended to. And so soon after the murders, people that knew and loved them and worked with them started making comments and on social media, and some talked to the press. And it was said that a coworker had seen Dana outside, and she was very upset on the call and said something to the effect of, "I shouldn't have done that," or whatever. We don't know what it meant, but we do know at the time there was a little bit of tension because Hannah didn't really want Charlie Gilly around, who was the father of the baby. And we know it caused some tension between her and her siblings.
Yeah.
There were some public Facebook exchanges from the hospital that started at the hospital about her decision to not let him up there. And we don't know why, and that's not our business. But so it seems like, it was just a crazy time in general.
Yep. I think Jake, like his demeanor and everything, and him thinking Hannah leaving was a phase.
Yeah, he wasn't convinced.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's kind of the richer kid in town, and maybe to him, like, stay with me, you have everything you need. But I mean, there's enough out there to where statements were made about abuse, and we know Jake's attorney is trying to keep that out of court. So if you look at Hannah's social media, it's a very, very indicative of somebody who's being abused.
Yeah.
Whether it's physically or emotionally. I mean, emotional is the same. Abuse is abuse. And you have to keep in mind, she's 15 with a child. I mean, you're not emotionally ready to deal with somebody manipulative, and because this is a girl who's got a baby with him, and she just thinks, before things went south, that they're going to live forever.
Yeah.
And have this family, and, maybe in another life it would have worked out. But I think, I really do think that when Hannah started posting those pictures around August, September, of Sophia with Charlie Gilly, I think that set them off.
Yeah, that's you see a lot of issues with that when it's a former boyfriend or a ex-father, like not ex-father. Why did I just say ex-father?
I'm sure some people claim to have ex-fathers.
That's true. I've never heard that term though. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. Like divorced parents, with a new person or whatever. And it's that's tough for them to see. So this thing that the investigators asked Bobby Joe and James was like, this is like horrible. And I know sometimes police ask questions just to see what kind of reaction you give. But they asked them how much money they made to kill the whole family.
Yeah, that was according to Dana Rhoden's dad. He gave an interview with a news station, and yeah,
that's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, this poor lady, like, she sees half her family dead, and then for weeks, cops are pretty much saying she did it, and I can imagine the rumor mill in that small town.
Yeah,
it had to have just been like grinding all the gears.
Yep.
And this family who's dealing with a loss none of us could imagine, they're having to worry that everybody thinks they had something to do with it.
Yeah.
That's a pretty loaded question, though.
Yes, yeah, it is. I think it was to get a reaction.
Shock value.
Yeah, to see what you get. So, all right, we're going to dive in the investigation now?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see here. Donald Stone, who found Kenneth Rhoden, he gave an interview and he said that there was blood everywhere. And he was choking up talking about this. And he said that he saw something that no other human should have to see. So the investigators, as soon as they arrest the Rhodens, they let the public know this was about custody.
Yeah.
Because we had all the theories of the marijuana farms. We had the theory of little Chris had been involved. I don't think it was his fault, in a road rage incident. And the woman was sentenced 2 days before the murders, and she pled no contest to assault charges. So something happened there. She got probation, had to do community service, and had a no contact order for little Chris and Dana. So they looked into that. They looked into there was a little bit of evidence that they may have had some cockfighting going on the properties. They found rooster cages and all that. So those were more, I guess that would be more local stuff, like local beef.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what they were looking at initially, just because I fully believe the reason they were killed the way that they were is to have the investigation go the way it did for a year.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, if Hannah and Dana and little Chris were killed and that's it, it really gives law enforcement a good idea where to go look.
Yeah.
That's the rest of the family knows there's a custody thing. Why would she end up dead? She just had a baby. Who would want to kill her? So I think, number one, that way nobody could say there was a big custody dispute and here's what I saw.
Here's my deal with the whole issue. Like, where do you go in your brain? So you're wanting full custody of your daughter, granddaughter, great granddaughter, well, whatever. So you're wanting that full custody. So you kill the parents.
Yeah.
Now the kid is what, in foster care?
Yeah, yeah.
Because her mom's dead, her dad's in jail. Her other side of her family on her dad's side, they're in jail. So here this kid has nobody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, it just, I don't see where your mind goes to get to that point, but
yeah. And it's tough because if Hannah felt threatened by Jake, she may have felt that in not giving him Sophia would reduce the amount of time she has to see him. We don't know, but I mean, he got her the day before the murders. So he said he wasn't allowed to see her, but he got her the day before the murders.
Yeah.
I don't think this had anything to do. I think it's a combination of jealousy, but ultimately I think Angela wanted those babies.
Yeah. So Angela makes a statement to the Inquirer, and I think this is when they were in Alaska, correct? And she says, what has happened to us in the last few weeks has been devastating and will follow us for the rest of our lives. Hannah was loved by all of us. She was like a daughter to me then and now. Her loss still hurts to this day, especially when we see her every day in Sophia. That's just sickening.
It is. I couldn't lay my head down at night.
No.
So they made some other comments to mainstream media. And we're just going to throw out some of the quotes here we found to be the most relevant. Let's find the real monsters who did this. That was said by Jake Wagner. Angela says Billy and Chris were like brothers and that Hannah was like a daughter. Jake says he didn't want that, meaning full custody. And he says the visitation agreement was working out just fine.
That's contradicting itself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, 1 minute he says he doesn't get to see her, and then...
Yeah, and that's the whole reason they're mad.
Yeah.
It really comes down to, I'm mad you're posting pictures of your new boyfriend with my daughter.
Yeah. So they also say we supplied police with invaluable information to help the investigation. We cooperated fully with law enforcement. They are making us look guilty. We were tired of being harassed by the authorities and the publicity.
Good job.
See, I slowed that down. Seeking politicians. We are scapegoats. The real murderers are still out there. The public said a year ago it is drug related or cartel.
Yeah, it's almost like she's saying, go back to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Rewind, go back over there. Why have the authorities not followed up on our leads? Law enforcement did not act quick enough with the leads they had. We want justice more than anyone.
Yeah, so they and then after they moved to Alaska, Jake, I think one of the last comments he gave to the media before they moved back, he said, really the point to moving up here was to basically get into a better environment so they wouldn't talk about us. Sophia is getting older, so she wouldn't hear it. And then it followed us here. So we'll talk about their Alaska trip later, but so this whole time they're doing what's predictable, which is we loved her. Chris was like a brother. I'm trying to do what's best for Sophia, and they did everything.
Yeah. It just
that got them to that point where they had to do those things.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay, so we're gonna get into the actual investigation now. In May of 2016, this a few weeks after the murders, the trailers that everybody was killed in, they moved those to an impound lot to store as evidence. And a local station, Fox 19, they start staking out that place and they find they were there for 6 weeks and combined it was like 70 hours that they watched that impound lot, and the gate was slightly open and they never saw anybody there. So that's a big deal.
Hey, well, it looks like Fox 19 was providing security for the evidence and the trailers.
Right. That's funny.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to come in trial.
Yeah.
Whatever they're planning on doing with those trailers, I know part of it was that they wanted to protect the contents inside for the family when all this is over, because everything that was in that trailer when they were murdered is still in there. They have not been able to take anything out.
Yeah, and they said they kept some of it for the family so they could eventually have it or whatever.
I'm just thinking maybe, is one of the tactics going to be to walk the jury through those crime scenes? I mean, that's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
That is a powerful thing for a jury.
I've honestly never heard of it.
Really?
Like we've discussed like them not selling like letting somebody move in an apartment because of those, that walking the jury through and stuff or whatever. But I've never heard of them moving the actual whole.
Oh, the crime scene.
Yeah, they've moved over 150 cars.
Yeah. Like
the trailers. I
think they were just worried about curious people that may want to come in the middle of the night and see something, or a family member had said those trailers would have ended up burned down.
Yeah.
They just, whether it's people who just don't want to see it because their friends died in there, I don't know. But they really felt like they had to get it in a safe place to preserve everything. And so what they end up and did is they spent a ton of money. I think it was $100,000 or more, and built kind of a big shed that they're in now.
Gotcha.
So it's called a pole barn.
It's kind of, I don't see where you could do this for every case, but it's kind of nice. Like, you could go back, like if you're a detective and you could go back and say, well, this here, that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
you got your crime scene on, police property, and go do everything with a fine tooth comb.
Yep. So August of 2016, Jake Wagner's property listed for sale.
Yep.
And then he sells it in March of 2017.
Yeah, I looked it up. I think he made $140, $160 on it, something around there. And then I saw some social media posts from Angela where she was inquiring about real estate up there. And in fact, I saw the thread where she was asking about the trailer or wherever they moved in. It looked like it had, you see them a lot here down at the beach. So it's like a single wide trailer with an addition built onto it.
Yeah.
To make it bigger. So before she pulled her social media, she was inquiring about that. They were selling a lot of stuff. They were getting rid of their pigs. They were like for really cheap. They were getting rid of these beagles they were, selling. So it really seemed like a little bit of a frenzy to get out of there. They were ready.
That's odd.
Yeah.
That's odd. Because I think, too, if I remember right, because I read an article when the police went in at Frederica's place, that her husband was not real healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So that Billy was actually there helping to take care of him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of odd if you're helping take care of your dad.
Yeah, why would you leave?
To leave, yeah.
Because you've killed a family of 8.
True.
Yeah, you know that.
True.
Yeah. So we talked on the last podcast. Jake looked at Hannah's social media. He was hacking in and looking at her social media for a full year after their deaths. On May 10th, Jake's property was searched. And on the next episode, we're going to go through the evidence list from each property and tell you what they got. But we're just going to go through these really quickly. May the 12th, the other properties were searched belonging to the family. And then May 13th, Fruit Loop.
Yeah, Frederica's Flying W Farms is searched. And then June of 2017, Jake and Angela on Facebook, and this is to the Cincinnati Enquirer, please let's concentrate on finding the real monsters who did this.
Yep. It's just deflecting.
Yeah. It's, focus on who really did it. Well, we are focusing on.
But you have to, from the Wagner standpoint, their property at this point, I think they had a search here, search there. But, nobody's knocking on their door. So I think maybe the Wagners are like, we're good right now. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here while, there's not much heat.
Yeah.
It wasn't really until the Wagners went to Alaska that everything kind of heated up.
Yeah.
As far as the investigation.
Well, it's just red flags.
Yeah.
Like, you've lived in this area. You have roots here. You have businesses here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have family here. So.
Yeah. And they moved to Alaska, I believe it was like May of 2017. And they were back in the spring of 2018. So they were gone about a year.
Yeah.
And it was them. It was the family. So you have, and I'm saying the family names so you can learn them. Billy, Angela, Jake, George. They also had Sophia with them and George's little boy that he had custody of.
Yeah.
So they all moved 4,000 miles away, I might add. This place is about 3 hours from Anchorage. But they were just telling people that they had better jobs up there, and that's where they were going to go.
And I think they had traveled through there or like vacation there or something and loved the area and stuff. So
yeah, I've seen a couple of pictures of them up there. I'm just not sure what probably was after the murders because Sophia looked to be about the age she would have been. So yeah, once they got up there, they started posting on their social media.
Yep. So June of 2017, that's when the Ohio Attorney General and Sheriff Reeder asked the public for information on the Wagner family. They didn't call them persons of interest, but they really said everything but that.
Yeah.
The Attorney General says they were laser focused on them. They specifically wanted to know business dealings, vehicles, firearms, ammo, etc.
Yeah. So I think you're starting to get that, like the frame of the puzzle put together.
Yeah.
And you got to start filling in those pieces. I think, I don't know. I mean, yeah, they went a year without getting caught, but I think it's one of those things where we're going to find they probably were looking at these guys from very early on. And this is just one of those cases you've got to run the marathon and not the sprint. Definitely, because it was 2 years. But we'll talk later about the one piece of evidence they found that got everything going within a few days.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, they could have been under surveillance in Alaska. Like very well.
I'm sure they were.
Like
the Daily Mail, they kind of stalked them out up there. So, when they were up there, I'd say every few weeks they would do a story where it showed pictures of them going into Walmart with the kids, or there was one with Billy on a bike. Can I just say Billy's huge? He's tall, like 6.5 foot.
Yeah.
I was looking at his stats. He's just a big man.
Yeah.
A lot of press came out, and I really wasn't closely following this case, about some of his tattoos as well, which one, he is like a triple triangle that's kind of connected. And apparently that's been linked to white supremacy, but we don't know. But that was out in mainstream media, so I do feel okay saying it on here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know.
So what where are we at? Like,
yeah, I'm looking too.
Okay, so October 30th.
Yeah, there we go.
2018, investigators find the last piece of evidence, a silencer in a well.
And that apparently was the smoking gun they needed to get them indicted.
Wow.
So we were talking about silencers before we came on.
Yeah. And what I read, and some of you may be experts in this, you guys are always awesome to reach out and give us information. So it kind of depends on the silencer if it leaves like extra striations on the bullets and stuff. So it really depends on the silencer. But it seemed to what we discovered, they can tell that this was fired through the silencer.
Yeah, so. And they never found any guns that we know of. So probably being able to link shell casings to that silencer would be that main physical evidence they need.
Yeah, and we know there was a lot of bullets. So.
Oh yeah. So on the 30th of October, they find the silencer, and then 2 weeks later, they're all arrested, including the grannies.
Yep, including the grandmothers. So, do we want to go there about the grandmothers now, or are you going to wait?
No, let's just go ahead and talk about the grandmas, and then we'll get down into Jake's indictment.
Okay, so Rita Newcomb, who is Angela Wagner's mom, she was accused of helping to cover up the Rhoden family homicides. She agreed to a plea deal. The first resolution in any of the criminal cases that began the night of the killings, that's nearly 4 years ago. So she was accused of forging custody documents that were related to the case. And then she lied about it to the grand jury and to investigators. She pled guilty to a reduced misdemeanor charge of obstructing official business. So in exchange, felony charges of forgery, perjury, and obstructing justice were dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
So the prosecutor said in court that a handwriting expert concluded that Miss Newcomb did not sign the documents herself. I thought that was big.
Mm-hmm.
The prosecutor said that Miss Newcomb admitted to falsely telling a grand jury and investigators that she did so only because her daughter Angela asked her to, or told her to.
Mm-hmm.
The judge said Newcomb must still comply with conditions of her bond, and she cannot have any contact with her relatives. He did, however, order her released from house arrest and said an electronic ankle monitor could be removed by a court official. Her plea deal, the maximum sentence a judge could give her is 90 days in jail.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm pretty sure she's a witness for the prosecution.
Yeah, it seems
and
like
that was what her daughter got in trouble. Part of the reason she got in trouble was telling her not to testify against the family.
Yeah, you get the whole, here we go again, Lori Vallow. Mark Means, your phone call is being recorded. And you're going to say, Mom, don't testify against me.
And get on a 3-way call with a co-conspirator.
Dude, I want to be the ones who listen in on those phone calls. I would be like, guys, you should hear this.
I know.
Listen to what this person's saying.
No, I would want to chime in.
Yeah, I would be like, I'm listening, right? Yeah.
I'd be like, girl, he's got 30 years in jail. You better move on.
Yeah, you just better move on.
He don't love you.
I would be like,
no, I'm teasing.
This is God. Tell the truth. No. But so moving on to Frederica. So all charges, and this was in June of 2019, all charges against she was accused of perjury and obstruction of justice. And they dropped all those charges. The prosecutor filed a motion during Wagner's last pretrial hearing before her case was to go to trial in July. So the judge accepted the motion and the case is officially dismissed. She made a statement and said they didn't have any evidence against her. Yeah. But the prosecution did not make any comments coming out. Of the courtroom, so nobody really knows if they would have had enough to convict her or what. So.
I think it was determined that she bought the vest after the murders because she was worried about her son.
Yeah,
knowing the Rhodens.
Yeah.
But another big thing was whether or not it was ordered off eBay or Amazon. She said one and it was the other. So it's not really clear to me if it was just kind of an oopsie thing, like we shouldn't have arrested her.
Yeah,
we got a little arrest happy. But she, so that was over with for her.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I've got to research a little better. But apparently at some point before the arrests, the whole family was up at Grandma Frederica's Flying W farm. And there was a conversation that they had that was overheard by somebody who reported it. And we don't know who that was. That they were saying if they got arrested, they would arrange to murder, I believe, the prosecutor and the sheriff.
Yeah.
That has been talked about in court when there was a witness, I believe, during one of Georgia's hearings. I think it was a bond hearing. He was asking for a lower bond. And the guy on the stand was like, here's why he shouldn't get bond. Him and his family said how they wanted to kill me.
Yeah.
If they got arrested.
Yeah.
So that kind of popped up. And before the Wagners went to Alaska, Jake took 3 of his storage trailers, and I think it seemed to be a lot of the contents of the house, and 2 trucks to a car lot where they knew the owner, and they leave it there. So the cops eventually come and search these cars, and inside the cab of Jake's truck, they find a box. And I think it had important papers or something. I mean, something was labeled important, which is going to be what police go to first. And they found the custody papers and the Walmart receipt for the shoes that Angela bought for the murders.
Yeah.
So she had bought these specific shoes from Walmart that were Velcro, and probably just to not bring any kind of DNA from their house or anything into the crime scene that could later be identified. But for me, I'm thinking kind of a smart thing to get Velcro shoes where you're not going to trip. if you're running.
Yeah.
But anyways, and then there was a hearing where the camera got some close-ups of some of the evidence pictures that the witness was looking at. And do you remember what we saw in those?
I don't.
Oh,
I was
okay.
just thinking. I was thinking. This is a note to myself. If I ever have important papers, I'm going to put on there, these mean nothing.
Right, yeah.
This is garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so nobody looks there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was some blood spatter on a wall, and it was a good volume of blood spatter. It looked like investigators have referenced a picture about Jake Wagner holding a Glock pistol in his open hand, and that was it. That was in there. There's a picture of Angela going into Walmart on the day she bought the shoes, which ironically was the day that Hannah Rhoden had her baby shower for baby Kylie.
Wow.
So as she's having her shower, Angela's going to buy her family the shoes that will kill her, that will take their little feet right up to those trailers.
Wow.
Isn't that
crazy?
It's just so weird.
Crazy.
So the Wagners, right before their arrest, they felt like they were being harassed by the Attorney General, Mr. DeWine, who is now the governor of Ohio.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So we're just going to hop on real quick and do Jake's indictment, just a little rough summary of it. It was filed November 13th, 2018. And one of the things they put in there was the shoe purchase at Walmart. And they referenced some of the evidence against him was the brass catcher, which catches your shell casings.
Yeah, I know. And somebody reached out and said that was normally on like rifles and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So we know there was a 22 rifle
Mm-hmm.
that was part of some of the guns, I think.
Right.
So that's probably where that comes in.
So they had ammunition, magazine clip, the RF signal detector where they can maybe look and find cameras, parts to build a silencer. I think if they hadn't have found that silencer, would we have arrests? Because that's what they were waiting on. They even said, we found the piece of evidence we've been waiting for.
Dude.
Yeah, I mean, what if they hadn't have found that silencer? I would have looked on the well like early. I would have looked down there early on.
I was going to say, like, normally people like, I know my great-grandfather hid money in a well. That'd been the first place I looked. I'd have been in there.
I always think about Lassie saving Timmy from the well.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's so random. But
yeah, I say that to my brother's dog. And he looks at me like, uh-huh. I'd say, what's the matter, boy? Timmy falling a well? Yeah. Yep. So the forging documents, talking about the custody stuff. Dude, I mean, I'm sorry. It's just all dumb.
It really is.
Like, it's dumb. Like, forging documents, come on.
Yeah, and it goes to show you how I don't think Jake had any idea of how relationships work, because when you break up with somebody, you might be with somebody new. It's a control issue. And if you think about it, had they had any wits about them, they would have said, okay, they have money. If they really were being denied the kid, or if he wanted full custody in general, they had the goods to get Sophia out of that house. All they had to do was turn in the grow operation.
Yeah.
They could have went through it in a legit way.
Yeah, my thing about forging the documents, I mean, it's not like you're forging permission slip to go to on a field trip.
Right.
Like, you're forging like major documents.
And I think the rush on that was, I believe they had to cross the Canadian border to get into Alaska. So Sophia would have had to, when one parent, you have to have like a note from the other parent or permission from the other parent to take a kid across a border, I believe. He was asked, and then he had to tell them, oh, her mom's dead.
Oh, wow.
So some of the theory is that the custody papers were done so quickly because they knew they wanted to move to Alaska, or maybe he just wanted to get her right out of the gate. I bet Angela and Frederica, I bet that was a battle of the alpha females. I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it. Angela's very smug. If you watch her in court, she seems like she wore the britches in that family.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me.
Yep.
I mean, you got telling your mom what to do.
Yeah. Well, these kids were so attached to their parents. It's very strange. It's almost like they were perpetually, I guess, teenagers where they're still home. I mean, it's just from people that knew them, it seems like they didn't make any decisions outside of that house, whether it was a decision that Jake needed to make about his relationship or anything like that.
It seems like it ran like a hierarchy, though.
Yeah.
It's like and I'm not saying this is what it was, but almost like a mob family,
Yeah.
Like, okay, I make all the decisions and you do what I say, like, kind of like, so.
Yeah, but I think, too, it's just, there is a word for families like that, and it's just essentially where the kids don't progress.
Yeah.
They're kind of stuck. And so they're with mom and dad all day. They eat 3 meals a day with mom and dad. They live with mom and dad, whatever.
It's like they can't make their PB&J by themselves.
Like my son just, came in here 10 minutes ago and about called me mommy dearest because I won't feed him 3 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Will you help me make my PB&J?
He's 13 years old. And I mean, he's taller than me. And I know it's a mommy thing, but I'm trying to teach independence a little bit,
He was grinning the whole time.
Oh, I know. He's such a sweet boy. I love that kid.
He was waiting on you to bite.
Oh, because he knows 9 times out of 10 he can look at me and smile and I'll do it. And that's okay because he's a mama's boy, but not like a mama's boy like the Rhoden boys.
No.
I think he'll be okay later to separate and do his own thing.
Yeah.
So they just did a lot, and we talked about it on the last one, counter surveillance just of the properties, the pets. They monitored all the social media accounts and all that was named in the indictment.
Dude, I'm going to tell you, I think surveillance in those areas, and I've just looked at overhead views, so I'm obviously not driven through there, but it seems like it would be very hard to surveillance an area like that.
It's all trees.
Yeah, and it's not like you're in New York City where there's 10 million people, and you can just blend in and be like, okay, I'm following you, and you don't even know it. Like if your car is parked near the house on the side of the road or whatever, like I'm going to know.
Right, yeah.
Because there's nothing out there.
I think a lot of it probably stemmed from that grow operation.
Yeah.
Just to keep an eye on their plants and stuff.
Yeah. I'm just talking about in general, like them doing surveillance on the Rhodens. Following, you know what I mean? Like seeing their routines and following them and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's like, I don't know how you did it. I will quote, somebody commented on our social media that's from there and says, yeah, it's in the sticks.
Yeah. It seems it. I mean,
so I just don't know how do you run surveillance like that with not a lot of people around?
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But I think that's probably a good little stopping point for us.
Yeah.
So we're just giving you little bits and pieces because once you sort of absorb all this and have a good grip on who everybody is, man, this is going to be a long, drawn-out case and 4 trials. And the reason they're not trying them as co-conspirators like Chad and Lori is because this is a death penalty case, I believe. I'm pretty sure they're going to go for that. So they can't be co-conspirators in that.
Yeah.
It's when you have a death penalty case, I think you have to have like 2 very specific attorneys on your team. And there's a lot of things you have to do. So was there anything else? I don't think we have any hearings coming up. Next one is the 22nd for the motion to dismiss in March for Chad.
Yeah. You got Letitia's coming up on the 11th and the 12th.
Yeah. That's not the trial though?
No, that's the
she's having a hearing.
It's what is it? We're horrible.
I wonder if she's gonna like object to herself.
Dude, it's gonna be
like say a question, I object.
It's going to be such a circus.
It's going to be. I mean, other than when she questions, Al and Landon and Lena, I'm for it. I will get my popcorn and we'll live tweet it and we'll just sit here and talk about how the Hot Mess Express is taking off.
Yeah. Like, I just.
Because I think the other day she said she didn't even know how to file something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah.
Trying to think of anything else we had. I don't think there was much.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I fully recommend. Several people took our advice and went and watched the Oxygen special on this, and they said it really helped them get a grip. And so they were more excited about the episode now that they kind of can see everybody. So you don't have to necessarily watch that one. YouTube has several videos that just give you like a 10-minute rundown of everybody. So do that. We're keeping an eye on the Victoria Rose case here in Greenville, and there hasn't been any movement in that at all.
Nope.
Orson West, the sheriff talked the other day. We're going to cover that on the next one. I'll say though, it sounds to me like maybe they're not convinced the Wests are in this. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's just kind of the thing I got for it. We'll talk about it next episode. If you guys don't mind, follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you'll know when we go live again or drop a new episode. And unless something crazy happens in the next few days, we'll see you guys on Wednesday for another full one.
Thank you guys for your interaction.
Yes, we love it.
Yeah, it's great. And reaching out when you hear us say something wrong, because we know we're going to say something wrong.
Yeah, we're not professionals. We're not lawyers.
No.
We're not paralegals. We're, I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah, we're just little peons over here. Just trying to bring you some news.
That's it.
Yep. So,
all right, guys.
y'all have a good rest of your evening.